She pulled out a small component, still glowing with strange light. It was warm to the touch, and 6 months had passed since the Vreth landed on Earth. And Thalvin was beginning to understand what the Oracle had tried to warn him about. The humans would not surrender. They would not break. They would not stop. He stood in the command center of his base in what the humans called Kazakhstan, staring at casualty reports. 53 soldiers lost yesterday, 41 the day before. Every single day his forces bled. Not heavily, not enough to threaten his hold on the planet, but enough to worry him. This should have been over in days, he said to his second officer. We control all major cities. We have destroyed their military bases. Their fleets are scattered, so why are they still fighting? They are irrational, Commander, the officer replied. They do not understand that resistance is futile, but Thalvin was not so sure anymore. The humans understood perfectly well. They just did not care. In occupied Seoul, Subin crouched in what used to be a subway tunnel. Her cell of resistance fighters had grown from 12 survivors to 53. They were all young. Most were civilians who had never held a gun before the invasion. But they learned quickly. Tonight's target is a supply depot, their leader, Lieutenant Minho, said, pointing to a crude map drawn on the tunnel wall. The aliens store their equipment here before distributing it to the front lines. We hit it, take what we can carry and blow the rest. Their security has increased, Subin pointed out. They have drones patrolling every hour. I know, Minho said. That is why we are not going through the front. Subin, you studied engineering, right? She nodded. The sewers run under that depot. If we can get inside, plant explosives, and get out before they know we are there. It was a terrible plan. Too many things could go wrong. But Subin had learned that all their plans were terrible. They fought with whatever they had wherever they could. When do we leave? She asked. That night, 12 fighters crawled through sewers that smelled like death. Subin led the way, her hands shaking as she disarmed alien sensors. The devices were sophisticated, but 6 months of captured technology had taught humanity many things. They placed the explosives carefully, not just to destroy but to cause maximum chaos. Then they waited until an alien patrol passed directly overhead. The explosion lit up the Seoul night. The depot went up in a fireball that could be seen for kilometers. Alien soldiers rushed to contain the damage while Subin's cell melted back into the tunnels. 63 confirmed kills, Minho reported the next day, and we destroyed enough equipment to supply a battalion. Subin felt nothing. Once killing would have horrified her. Now it was just numbers. Far above Earth in the asteroid belt, Captain Daewon commanded a very different kind of resistance. After Aegis 7 fell, he had made his way to the belt, where human miners had transformed their equipment into weapons. Mining laser ready, his weapons officer reported. Daewon watched the Vreth supply ship approaching. It was smaller than the warships, lightly defended. The Vreth thought the belt was secure. They were wrong. Fire. The mining laser designed to cut through rock punched through the supply ship's shields like they were not there. The Vreth had never considered that humans might weaponize industrial equipment. Target their engines, Daewon ordered. I want that ship intact. They boarded the crippled vessel, killing the crew quickly. Then they stripped it of everything useful. Technology, weapons, food, most importantly, data. Get everything to the analysts, Daewon told his crew. Every piece of information helps. His raids had become legendary among the scattered human resistance. The ghost of the belt, the Vreth called him. A human who struck from nowhere and vanished into the dark. On Earth, in a hidden bunker beneath the ruins of Geneva, Ambassador Jiwoo coordinated the global resistance. She was no longer a diplomat. That person had died when Sydney was threatened. Now she was a spy master, a strategist, a symbol of human defiance. We have intercepted another communication, Dr. Bora said, playing the recording. The Vreth commander is requesting reinforcements. Jiwoo smiled coldly. Good, we are hurting them. They are also talking about escalation, Bora continued. Orbital bombardment of resistance strongholds. The smile faded. How long until we have working shields? Taeyang thinks 2 more months, Bora replied. Engineer Taeyang was humanity's best hope. A civilian who had been designing power systems before the invasion, he now led the effort to reverse engineer Vreth technology. Every piece of equipment that Subin's resistance recovered, every component that Daewon captured, all of it went to Taeyang's labs. I need more time, Taeyang said, staring at the partially assembled shield generator. His team had been working non-stop for months, and they were close. So close, we do not have more time, General Hyun-sik said. The general looked older than he had 6 months ago. Leading a losing war did that to a person. The Vreth are preparing something big. Our scouts report increased activity around their landing zones. Then we hit them first, Jiwoo said. We have been planning Operation Tempest for 3 months. We move up the timeline. The shields are not ready, Taeyang protested. They are ready enough, Jiwoo countered. 70% functionality is better than 0% when the alternative is extinction. Operation Tempest was humanity's desperate gamble. Coordinated strikes on 12 Vreth bases, all happening simultaneously. The goal was not to win. The goal was to prove that Earth would not go quietly. 3 weeks later, at precisely 0400 GMT, the attacks began. In Kazakhstan, Subin's resistance cell had grown to 200 fighters. They hit the Vreth command center from underground, using the tunnels that the aliens had never bothered to map. Explosives ripped through the lower levels while human soldiers in experimental armor charged the upper floors. The armor was crude, cobbled together from captured Vreth technology and human engineering. It did not have shields, but it had something the Vreth had not expected. Taeyang's modified nuclear charges. The bombs were small, tactical, designed to penetrate Vreth shields through a specific frequency disruption that Taeyang had discovered. When they detonated inside the Kazakhstan base, 50,000 Vreth soldiers died instantly. In Beijing, in Cairo, in New York, in 9 other cities, the same thing happened. Humanity had struck back. Thalvin felt the ground shake as his base in Kazakhstan died. He was inspecting the front lines when the attack came, which probably saved his life. He watched the mushroom cloud rise into the sky and knew, with absolute certainty, that everything had changed. "Get me casualty reports," he ordered, his voice shaking. All bases, the numbers were devastating. In one coordinated strike, the humans had killed over 50,000 Vreth soldiers. More than had died in the entire 6 months of occupation. How did they penetrate our shields? His tactical officer demanded. I do not know, Thalvin admitted. But they did. Contact the homeworld. Tell them we need reinforcements immediately. And tell them... He paused, remembering the Oracle's words. Tell them the humans are not primitive. Not anymore. In the aftermath of Operation Tempest, Jiwoo allowed herself one moment of celebration. Then she got back to work. Casualties? She asked General Hyun-sik. Heavy. We lost 60% of the strike teams. But the Vreth losses are higher. And their response? Hyun-sik's face was grim. They are pulling back to defensive positions, consolidating their forces, and their reinforcement fleet is 3 weeks out. Then we have 3 weeks to prepare, Jiwoo said. Taeyang, how fast can you build more shields? With the resources we captured in the raids? Maybe 50 units. Not enough to protect cities, but enough to protect ships. Jiwoo nodded. Then we build ships. Admiral Ki-jun, I need you to take every civilian vessel we have and retrofit them for combat. Admiral Ki-jun was a former commercial shipping captain who had been pressed into military service. He looked at Jiwoo like she was crazy. You want me to turn cargo haulers into warships? I want you to turn anything that flies into a weapon, Jiwoo said. The Vreth think they can reinforce their position and finish us. We are going to show them they are wrong. In the depths of Earth's oceans, Commander Yun-hee listened to the orders with grim satisfaction. She commanded what remained of Earth's submarine fleet, and they had been hiding for 6 months waiting for their moment. Finally, she said to her crew, finally we get to fight back. Her submarines were being retrofitted with captured Vreth engines. It was insane. It might not work. But if it did, humanity would have weapons that could strike from anywhere. Private Subin stood in the ruins of the Kazakhstan base and stared at the destruction. Her brother had died in this attack. He had been in the first wave, the one that did not come back. She should feel something, grief, anger, something. But there was only a cold emptiness. You okay? Lieutenant Minho asked. I am alive, Subin replied. That will have to be enough. Around them, survivors picked through the wreckage, recovering alien technology and weapons. Every piece of equipment was precious now. Every advantage mattered. The Vreth are coming back, Minho said, with more ships, more soldiers. Then we will kill those too, Subin said simply. Minho looked at her, this young woman who had been studying art history 6 months ago. Now she was one of his most efficient soldiers. The war had broken something. but everyone knew it was impossible. You could not evacuate millions of people. 18 months after the invasion, humanity launched 500 ships toward the Vreth homeworld. Not one of them was designed as a warship. They were cargo haulers, mining vessels, colony ships, and passenger liners. But engineer Taeyang had transformed them into something new. Something deadly. "All ships report ready," Admiral Kijun said, standing on the bridge of the Remembrance, humanity's new flagship. It had been a grain transport before the war. Now it bristled with weapons and shields built from captured Vreth. Technology and human ingenuity. Course laid in for Vrendar. The navigation officer confirmed. Kijun looked at the fleet displayed on his screens. Behind each ship icon were names: Paris, Delhi, Sydney, Tokyo, Lagos, Moscow. Every ship was named for a city the Vreth had destroyed. Every ship carried survivors who had lost everything. "Take us to faster than light," he ordered. "Let us go show them what war really means." The fleet jumped. Behind them, Earth lay in ruins. Ahead of them, the Vreth homeworld waited, unaware that the storm was coming. On Vrendar, the crystal towers of the capital city reached toward the sky, beautiful and ancient. The Vreth had lived in peace for 10,000 cycles, conquering other worlds but never bringing war home. Their world was untouched, pristine, perfect. That was about to change. Thalvin stood in the Oracle's chamber, his body still fractured from the human virus. The treatment had saved his life, but he would never fully recover. Every movement hurt. Every breath was pain. "You were right," he told the Oracle. "I should have listened." "Yes," the Oracle agreed. Its voice was sad. "But the time for listening is past. Now comes the storm. I can feel them approaching. The two-legged ones. They are angry, Commander. So very angry." "Our fleet will stop them," Thalvin said, but he did not sound convinced. "Will they?" the Oracle asked. "You have lost 2 fleets already. How many Vreth have died fighting these primitives? 50,000? 100,000? How many more will die before you admit the truth?" "What truth?" Thalvin demanded. "That you have woken something that should have stayed sleeping. That humanity is not like the other species you have conquered. They do not accept defeat. They do not forget. They do not forgive. And now they are coming here to our home, and they will show us what we showed them." The chamber fell silent. "Can we stop them?" Thalvin asked quietly. "I do not know," the Oracle admitted. "I see many futures, and in most of them, our world burns." The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vrendar system. Alarms immediately began blaring across the Vreth homeworld. 500 contacts, the Vreth defense commander reported to the Council of Elders. "Human design. Primitive construction. But armed with our technology. How did they get here?" one of the elders demanded. "Vrendar is 10 jumps from their world." "They learned," the defense commander said simply. "They always learn." The Vreth defense fleet was impressive. 700 ships, all purpose-built warships crewed by veterans. They should have been able to crush the primitive human fleet easily. But Admiral Kijun had learned from every battle, every loss, every death. He knew he could not win a straight fight, so he did not fight straight. "All ships, scatter formation," he ordered. "Break into hunting packs. Use the asteroid belt for cover. Make them chase us." The fleet split apart, each group of ships heading in different directions. The Vreth fleet tried to pursue, but suddenly they were fighting dozens of small battles instead of one large one. And the humans were vicious. Commander Yunhee's submarine fleet, now equipped with Vreth engines, attacked from below the orbital plane where the Vreth never expected enemies. Her ships punched through shields from underneath, targeting engines and power cores. Captain Daewon led his spacer fleet in hit-and-run attacks, appearing from behind asteroids, firing and vanishing before the Vreth could respond. His ships were fast, maneuverable, and commanded by people who had spent 2 years learning how to kill Vreth. Major Subin commanded the ground assault forces. Her ships broke through the orbital defenses and headed straight for the Vreth capital. Around her, soldiers in powered armor prepared to deploy. "Remember Paris," she told her troops. "Remember Delhi, remember Sydney. Remember everyone we lost. Today we make them understand what they did to us." The first human boots touched Vreth soil at 0600 local time. The Vreth had never been invaded. They did not have fortifications. They did not have emergency protocols. They had lived in peace for so long that they had forgotten how to defend their home. Humanity taught them in blood. Subin's forces swept through the crystal towers, fighting not to conquer but to destroy. Every building that fell was payback for a human city. Every Vreth soldier that died was revenge for a human family. "Major," one of her officers said, "we have reached the civilian districts." "Orders?" Subin looked at the crystal structures ahead. Inside were Vreth families, children, innocents who had never even seen Earth. For a moment she hesitated. Then she remembered her brother's face as the Vreth bombardment turned soul to glass. "Keep advancing," she ordered. "No mercy." "Just like they showed us." But before her troops could move, a voice filled her helmet. "Ambassador Jiwoo, all forces, hold position. Do not advance into civilian areas. I repeat, hold position." "Ambassador," Subin said coldly, "they did not spare our civilians." "I know," Jiwoo replied, "but we are not them. We are better than them. We have to be, or what are we fighting for?" Subin wanted to argue, wanted to scream that being better meant nothing when you were dead. But she held her position. In orbit, Admiral Kijun received the same message. His fleet had the Vreth defense fleet on the run. They could bombard the planet, turn cities to glass just like the Vreth had done to Earth. "Sir," his weapons officer said, "we have firing solutions on all major population centers." Kijun's hand hovered over the firing control. It would be so easy, so satisfying. An eye for an eye. But Jiwoo's voice came through again. "Admiral, do not fire on civilian targets. We are not here to genocide. We are here to win." "They glassed our cities," Kijun said. "And if we glass theirs, we are exactly the same as them," Jiwoo replied. "We came here to show them that humanity will not be victims. But we also came to show them that we can be better, that we can show them mercy they did not." It was the hardest order Kijun had ever had to follow, but he gave it. All ships target military installations only. Leave civilian infrastructure intact. On the surface, Thalvin watched the battle from his command center. The humans were winning. His defense fleet was scattered. His capital was under assault. And yet they were not slaughtering civilians. They were not burning cities. Why? He asked the Oracle. "They have us beaten. They could destroy everything. Why are they holding back?" "Because they are teaching you a lesson," the Oracle replied. "They could be monsters. They could be exactly what you accuse them of being, primitives who know only violence. Instead, they choose to be better. They choose to show you that humanity is more than just rage and vengeance." Thalvin felt something crack inside him, not his body this time. Something deeper. "We were wrong," he whispered. "From the very beginning, we were wrong about them." "Yes," the Oracle agreed. Thalvin straightened despite the pain. "Get me a communication channel to the human commander. It is time to end this." When Admiral Kijun's screen lit up showing the Vreth commander, he almost did not take the call, but something in Thalvin's posture made him pause. "What do you want?" Kijun demanded. "To surrender," Thalvin said. The words seemed to hurt him more than his injuries. "You have won. Your forces control our capital. Our fleet is scattered. We cannot defeat you. I ask for terms." Kijun looked at the Vreth commander. He saw a being who had been so certain of his superiority, now broken and defeated. Part of him wanted to gloat, to make Thalvin suffer the way humanity had suffered, but he was so tired of death. "Ambassador Jiwoo will handle negotiations," Kijun said, "but I will tell you this. Your people will pay for what you did to Earth. The cost will be heavy. The terms will be harsh, and you will spend the rest of your existence remembering what happens when you underestimate humanity." Jiwoo arrived on Vrendar 3 days later. She met with Thalvin in the council chambers, surrounded by Vreth elders and human soldiers. "These are our terms," she said, her voice hard. 1. Complete and unconditional surrender of all Vreth military forces. 2. Reparations to Earth for rebuilding. You will provide technology, resources, and labor. 3. A buffer zone of 12 systems between Vreth space and human space. Your empire contracts. 4. The Oracle comes with us. It tried to warn you. Now it will advise us. 5. You will broadcast what happened here to every species in the galaxy. You will tell them about Earth. You will tell them what happens when someone attacks humanity. And if we refuse? One of the elders asked. Then we resume the bombardment, Jiwoo said simply. And this time we will not hold back. Your choice. The Vreth Council looked at each other. They had no choice. They had lost. We accept, Thalvin said. Good, Jiwoo replied. One more thing. You will release all human prisoners. You will withdraw from Earth completely. and you will provide detailed star charts of this region of space. We need to know who else is out here, because if someone else tries what you... 1 year after the invasion, Earth looked like a different planet. 30% of humanity was gone. Entire cities had been reduced to rubble. The blue jewel that had once shone so beautifully from space was now scarred with the wounds of war. But humanity was still fighting. And that terrified Thalvin more than he wanted to admit. He stood in his rebuilt command center watching reports from across the planet. The humans had changed their tactics again. They no longer fought in open battle. Instead, they struck from shadows, vanished into tunnels, hit supply lines, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. They are like insects, his tactical officer complained. Everywhere and nowhere. We clear an area, and 2 days later they are back. How many soldiers have we lost this week? Thalvin asked. 743. Not a large number in the grand scheme of war, but steady, relentless. Every single day, more Vreth soldiers died, and the humans just kept coming. They should be beaten, Thalvin said quietly. Why are they not beaten? No one had an answer. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Kijun commanded the newly assembled Earth Defense Fleet. It was not a pretty sight. Cargo ships with weapons welded to their hulls, mining vessels equipped with Taeyang's experimental shields, passenger liners converted into troop carriers. Nothing matched. Nothing was standardized. But it flew and it could fight. All ships report ready, his communications officer said. Kijun took a deep breath. He was a cargo hauler, not an admiral. But the real admirals were dead and someone had to lead. Set course for Jupiter, he ordered. The Vreth reinforcements will be arriving at their staging area on Europa. We will be waiting. Sir, his second officer said nervously. Intelligence says they have at least 200 ships. We have 97. I know, Kijun replied. But we have something they do not expect. We have anger, and we have engineer Taeyang's surprises. On Europa, Vreth engineers had built a massive supply depot. It was supposed to be safe, far from Earth, protected by the bulk of Jupiter and its deadly radiation. The humans did not have the technology to reach this far. That was what the Vreth thought. They were wrong. The Earth fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly on top of the Europa base. The Vreth had seconds to respond, and seconds were not enough. All ships weapons free, Kijun shouted. The converted cargo ships opened fire, not with fancy plasma weapons, with nuclear missiles, hundreds of them. Taeyang had modified them with the shield-penetrating frequency he had discovered. The missiles tore through Vreth shields and slammed into the Europa base. The fuel depot exploded first, then the ammunition storage, then the entire moon seemed to shake as explosion followed explosion. Pull back, Kijun ordered. Get us out of here before their fleet arrives. But the Vreth reinforcement fleet was already arriving. 200 ships fresh from the homeworld dropped into real space and saw their supply base burning. Engage, the Vreth commander ordered, fury in his voice. The battle that followed was chaos. The human ships were slower, weaker, less advanced in every way. But they fought with a desperation that the Vreth had never encountered. When their weapons ran dry, they rammed. When their shields failed, they kept coming. When their ships were crippled, they turned them into bombs. Kijun watched his fleet die around him. 97 ships became 70, then 50, then 30. Sir, we need to retreat, his officer begged. Not yet, Kijun said through clenched teeth. Hold the line. We need to buy time for the next phase. On Earth, in a hidden laboratory that had once been a university, Dr. Namsu stood over his life's work. Before the invasion, he had been a microbiologist studying extremophile bacteria. Now he was humanity's most important weapon designer. Are you sure this will work? Dr. Bora asked, looking at the samples. No, Namsu admitted, but we have to try. The Vreth are crystalline beings. Their biology is completely different from ours. But that means they have vulnerabilities we do not. He held up a vial containing what looked like dark purple mist. This virus is designed to attack their crystalline structure. It spreads through their communication networks embedded in their data transmissions. Once it enters a Vreth soldier's body, it begins breaking down their molecular bonds. How long? Jiwoo asked. She had approved this project months ago, but hearing about it now, she felt sick. This was a weapon designed to cause suffering. 2 to 3 days from exposure to incapacitation, Namsu said. It is not fast, but it is thorough. And if we use this, Jiwoo asked, then we become the kind of species that uses biological weapons. Bora said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what she meant. There were lines even in war, but were those lines worth dying for? The Vreth glassed 3 of our cities, General Hyunsik said. His voice was flat, emotionless. Paris, Delhi, and Sydney. 200 million people gone. They did not hesitate. They did not show mercy. Why should we? Because if we become like them, Bora said, then what are we fighting for? Survival, Hyunsik replied. That is all. That is enough. Jiwoo closed her eyes. 1 year ago she would have refused. 1 year ago she believed in diplomacy, in finding common ground in the inherent goodness of intelligent beings. 1 year ago, she had not watched billions die. Deploy it, she ordered. May whatever gods exist forgive us. In occupied Seoul, Major Subin received her orders with calm acceptance. She had been promoted 3 times in the past year, not because of skill, but because everyone above her kept dying. Now she commanded what remained of the Korean resistance, a virus. Her second-in-command asked, We are delivering a biological weapon? The Vreth communication hub is 2 kilometers from here, Subin said, ignoring the question. We upload the virus to their network, and it spreads to every Vreth on the planet within hours. Dr. Namsu says it will incapacitate 40% of their forces and kill them slowly. Her second added. Subin thought about her brother, her parents, her friends. Everyone she had ever known was either dead or wished they were. Good, she said coldly. They deserve to suffer. The operation was almost too easy. The Vreth had grown complacent in their occupied zones. They did not expect humans to penetrate this deeply into their territory. Subin's team moved through the sewers, emerging directly beneath the communication hub. They climbed up through maintenance shafts, killed the guards silently, and reached the main server room. Uploading now, their tech specialist whispered, connecting to the alien network. The virus was beautiful in a terrible way. It spread through the Vreth network like wildfire, hidden in routine data packets, embedding itself in every communication, every transmission, every signal. By the time the Vreth realized they had been infected, it was already too late. Thalvin felt it first as a tingling in his crystalline structure, then a weakness, then pain. Commander, his medical officer reported, his voice shaking. 40% of our forces are showing symptoms. It is some kind of biological attack. How? Thalvin demanded, but he already felt his body beginning to crack. Small fractures appeared in his arms, spreading slowly. We do not get sick. Our biology does not work like that. The humans have adapted our technology, the officer said. Now they have adapted to our biology. Thalvin wanted to rage, to order strikes, to demand vengeance, but he could barely stand. Around him, his soldiers were collapsing, their bodies fracturing, their light dimming. The humans had done the impossible. They had turned the Vreth's own strength against them. In orbit, Admiral Kijun saw his opportunity. The Vreth reinforcement fleet was in chaos, their crews sick, their systems failing as infected soldiers could not maintain their posts. All remaining ships, he ordered. Full assault. Show them what happens when they underestimate Earth. The 37 surviving human ships charged into the Vreth formation. Without healthy crews, the alien ships could not coordinate their defense. One by one, they fell. When the battle ended, only 12 human ships remained. But the Vreth reinforcement fleet was destroyed. Get me a count, Kijun said, exhausted. Sir, we have won. The Vreth fleet is scattered. Their ground forces are incapacitated. We actually won. Kijun sat back in his chair. They had won, but at what cost? He looked at the casualty reports. 60,000 human soldiers dead in the Europa battle, another 100,000 in ground operations, and that was just today. On Earth, Thalvin lay in his command chamber, his body fractured and dim. The pain was constant now. His medical officers had no cure. The human virus was specifically designed to attack Vreth biology, and they had no defenses against it. Orbital bombardment, he whispered to his second officer. If we are dying, so are they. Target their major cities. Turn this planet into ash. Sir, the officer protested. That is against the Vreth code of... Do it! Thalvin screamed, and his voice cracked with pain and fury. They did this to us. They poisoned us. Burn their world! The order went out. 20 Vreth ships broke orbit and positioned themselves over major human population centers. Paris, Delhi, Sydney, cities that had survived the occupation were about to... Daijiwu received the warning with horror. How long? They will be in position in 10 minutes, General Hyunsik reported. Can we stop them? No, we do not have orbital defenses anymore. Our fleet is scattered. We cannot. Then evacuate, Jiwu ordered. Get as many people out as possible. Captain Daewon was drinking coffee when the alarm started screaming. He was on the observation deck of Aegis 7, one of Earth's 4 major orbital defense stations, watching the sunrise creep across Asia. The coffee was terrible, as always, but the view made up for it. Then every screen in the station turned red. All hands to battle stations. The voice of Commander Park echoed through the corridors. This is not a drill. Unknown vessels entering Earth space. Daewon dropped his coffee and ran. His duty station was weapons control 3 levels down. He took the ladders instead of the elevator, his training kicking in automatically. Around him, the station came alive with movement and noise. When he reached his post and strapped in, the tactical display made his blood run cold. 300 unknown contacts, each one massive, arranged in perfect formation at the edge of the solar system. Sir, Daewon said to Commander Park, what are we looking at? First contact, Park replied, his voice tight. And they are not friendly. The message from the aliens came minutes later. Daewon listened with growing horror. Surrender, relocation, mining operations. The words were polite, but the meaning was clear. Earth was being invaded. He watched as Ambassador Jiwu tried to negotiate. She was brave, Daewon thought, calm. But the alien commander did not care. 12 hours to evacuate entire cities? Impossible. They want us to refuse, Park said quietly. They want an excuse. 12 hours later, when the Vreth fired on Aegis 3, Daewon watched his sister station die. He had friends there. Good people. 15,000 souls gone in an instant. Return fire, Park ordered. All stations engage. Daewon's hands moved across his controls, targeting the nearest alien ship. Missiles away. Railgun firing. Energy weapons at maximum. Everything they had, nothing worked. The alien shields absorbed everything like water hitting stone. Sir, our weapons are ineffective, Daewon reported, his voice shaking. Keep firing, Park shouted. Make them work for it. The Earth Defense Fleet engaged next. 23 ships, humanity's pride. They lasted 7 minutes. Daewon watched them die one after another, their hulls torn apart by weapons he could not understand. All stations fall back to Earth, Park ordered. Defensive positions around the planet, but it was too late. The alien ships were already moving, descending toward Earth like falling stars. Daewon watched them land in 12 locations across the globe: Australia, Kazakhstan, Brazil, Indonesia, Canada, Russia, China, United States, Nigeria, India, Argentina, and right in the middle of the Korean peninsula. No, Daewon whispered. Not home. The ground war began immediately. General Hyunsik, commander of Earth Defense Coalition forces, had prepared as well as he could in 12 hours. Cities were evacuated. Soldiers were in position. Heavy weapons were deployed. But when the alien troops emerged from their ships, protected by shields and armed with plasma weapons that melted through tanks like butter, the human lines broke. In Seoul, Private Subin crouched behind rubble that had once been her apartment building. She was 19 years old and had enlisted in the Korean military only 6 months ago. She had expected to spend her service time on routine patrols and training exercises. Instead, she was fighting aliens. Fall back, her sergeant screamed. Fall back to secondary positions. Subin fired her rifle at the advancing aliens. The bullets sparked off their shields and fell harmlessly to the ground. Around her, soldiers were dying. The aliens' plasma weapons left nothing behind but ash and scorched earth. She ran. Through streets she had walked her entire life. Past the school where she had studied. Past the park where she had played as a child. All of it was burning now. Behind her, she heard her sergeant scream. She did not look back. On Aegis 7, Commander Park made a decision. All personnel to escape pods. Abandon station. Sir? Daewon could not believe what he was hearing. We can still fight. With what? Park's face was gray. Our weapons do nothing. The alien fleet is targeting us next. We cannot win this fight, but we can live to fight another day. Now move! Daewon wanted to argue, but he knew Park was right. The station was dead. They just had not stopped moving yet. He helped evacuate the crew, making sure everyone got to the pods. Park stayed at his post, coordinating the evacuation. When only the 2 of them were left, Daewon grabbed his commander's arm. Sir, time to go. Park nodded. They ran together to the last pod. As they sealed the hatch, the station shuddered. The aliens had opened fire. The pod launched just as Aegis 7 exploded behind them. Daewon watched through the small window as his home for the past 3 years was torn apart. He had served on that station since its construction. He knew every corridor, every system, every person. Now it was debris. The pod's automatic systems guided them toward Earth, but Daewon barely noticed. He stared at his hands, still shaking, and tried to process what had just happened. Humanity had met aliens, and the aliens wanted them gone. In New York, Ambassador Ji-woo sat in an emergency session of the United Nations. Representatives from every nation were present, either in person or via secured connection. "The room was chaos. We must surrender," the French delegate shouted. "You saw what they did to our fleet. To the stations. We cannot win." "Surrender to what?" the Chinese delegate shot back. "They want our planet. Where do we go?" "We negotiate," Ji-woo said, her voice cutting through the noise. "We buy time. We learn about them. We find their weaknesses. They have no weaknesses," someone muttered. Ji-woo wanted to scream. Instead, she took a breath and continued. "Every species has weaknesses. We just need to find them. But first, we need to survive. General Hyun-sik, what is our military situation?" The general's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Ji-woo could hear explosions. He was still on the battlefield. "We are losing ground in all 12 landing zones," Hyun-sik reported. "Our conventional weapons cannot penetrate their shields. Our armor cannot stop their plasma weapons. Casualties are mounting. I estimate we have days, maybe weeks, before they control all major population centers. Then we do not fight them head-on," Ji-woo said. "We disappear. We go underground. We make them work for every meter of ground." "Guerrilla warfare," Hyun-sik said slowly. "Against an enemy with superior technology. It is all we have," Ji-woo replied. While the leaders talked, Dr. Bo-ra sat in a basement laboratory at Seoul National University. She was a xenolinguistics expert, which had been a theoretical field until about 13 hours ago. Now it was the most important job on Earth. She had recordings of the alien transmissions. Their language was strange, musical, like crystal chimes. But it followed patterns, rules, and patterns could be broken. "Come on," she whispered to herself, running another analysis. "Talk to me. Tell me how you think." Her computer beeped. A partial translation. The aliens were calling Earth Planet 487 Theta, like they had named hundreds of worlds before it. Like Earth was just another resource to be harvested. She dug deeper into the transmissions, pulling apart every word, every phrase. And then she found something that made her blood run cold. The aliens were talking about humans, calling them expendable primitives, discussing how many could be used for labor before they needed to be recycled. Dr. Bo-ra grabbed her phone and called Ji-woo directly. "Ambassador, I have translated more of their communications. You need to hear this." Ji-woo listened in silence as Dr. Bo-ra explained what she had found. When the linguist finished, there was a long pause. "So they do not see us as people," Ji-woo said finally. "We are animals to them. Resources." "Yes," Dr. Bo-ra confirmed. "Then there is no negotiating," Ji-woo said. And Bo-ra heard something new in the ambassador's voice. Something hard and cold. "There is only survival." That night, as fires burned across 12 cities and alien forces advanced through the streets, a small human frigate named the Defiant Hope made one final run at the alien fleet. Its captain knew the shields could not be penetrated, knew the weapons would not work, but he also knew that someone had to try. The Defiant Hope accelerated to ramming speed, aiming directly for an alien destroyer. The alien ship fired, cutting through the frigate's hull, but momentum carried it forward. For just a moment the ships touched, then both exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the night sky. On his flagship, Thalvin watched the primitive ship's suicidal attack with something like surprise. "Why did they do that?" he asked his tactical officer. "They knew they could not win." "Unknown, Commander," the officer replied. "Possibly a malfunction, but Thalvin did not think so. He had seen the frigate's trajectory, the way it had aimed for the destroyer's bridge. That was not a malfunction. That was intentional. These humans," he said slowly, "they are more stubborn than I expected." "Should we accelerate the ground invasion?" his officer asked. Thalvin looked at the blue planet below, at the fires burning across its surface. At the primitive creatures fighting back with everything they had, even though it was pointless. Yes, he ordered, end this quickly, before they do something foolish. But in the ruins of Seoul, Private Subin was already doing something foolish. She had found a damaged alien drone that had crashed into a building. While her squad kept watch, she carefully pried open its casing. "What are you doing?" her sergeant hissed. "Learning," Subin replied, her hand steady despite her fear. "If we can understand their technology, maybe we can fight it." The chamber glowed with a light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. High Commander Thalvin stood in the center of the ancient room, his crystalline body reflecting the strange illumination in 1,000 different colors. He had not wanted to come here. The Oracle was old, older than the Empire itself, and its warnings were always wrapped in riddles that made his head hurt. But tradition demanded it. Before any major conquest, the Supreme Commander must consult the Oracle of Vrendar. "Speak, Ancient One," Thalvin said, trying to keep the impatience from his voice. "We have identified a new world for harvest, planet 487 Theta, rich in rare elements, inhabited by primitives. The fleet is ready." The light in the chamber pulsed. Then a voice filled his mind. Neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It simply was. "I see the blue world," the Oracle said. "I see the two-legged ones who walk upon it." "Yes," Thalvin replied. "Soft-skinned bipeds. They use chemical propulsion, chemical weapons. They are divided into hundreds of tribal nations. They fight among themselves constantly. They will be easy to subdue." "You see what you wish to see," the Oracle said, and the chamber darkened. "Look deeper." Images flooded Thalvin's mind. He saw the blue planet spinning in space, beautiful and fragile. He saw cities of metal and glass. He saw the two-legged creatures moving through their world, building, creating, destroying, rebuilding. He saw their small ships barely reaching their own moon. "Primitives," Thalvin said again. "Our shields will stop their weapons. Our plasma cannons will cut through their metal. This will take days, not cycles. They are not warriors," the Oracle said slowly. "Until they are." Thalvin felt a chill run through his crystalline form. "What does that mean?" "They are not united," the Oracle continued, "until they must be." "Speak clearly," Thalvin demanded. "Should we take this world or not?" The Oracle's presence seemed to press down on him from all sides. "I show you what I see. A warning, Commander. Do not wake the two-legged storm. They sleep now, comfortable in their small corner of space. But if you strike them, if you threaten their home, if you harm their young, they will become something else. Something terrible." Thalvin laughed. He could not help it. "A storm? These creatures?" "I have watched their transmissions. They make art about peace and love. They cry over small animals. They waste resources on the weak and old. They are soft, Oracle, soft and divided." "Then you have chosen," the Oracle said, and the light began to fade. "I have given my warning. The rest is yours to bear." "Wait," Thalvin said. "Show me more. Show me what you think will happen." The images came faster now. Fire. Explosions. The two-legged creatures standing in ruins, their faces twisted with rage and grief. Ships burning in space. His own soldiers falling. And through it all, the creatures kept coming, kept fighting, kept adapting. In the final vision, Thalvin saw himself surrounded by the primitives. Their weapons pointed at his head, and in their eyes was something that made him want to flee. Then the vision ended. The chamber was dark. "Tricks," Thalvin said, but his voice shook slightly. "You show me nightmares to make me cautious. But I have conquered 43 worlds, Oracle. 43 species have bowed before the might of the Vreth Empire. These humans will be the 44th. The Oracle said nothing more. Thalvin left the chamber and walked through the crystal corridors of the temple. Outside, his fleet waited. 300 ships, each one a masterpiece of Vreth technology. Shields that could withstand nuclear blasts. Weapons that could melt mountains. Soldiers who had trained for centuries in the art of conquest. He climbed aboard his flagship, the Eternal Victory, and took his place on the command throne. Around him, his officers worked at their stations, their crystalline fingers moving with practiced efficiency. "Set course for System 487, he ordered. "Maximum speed." "Yes, Commander," his navigation officer replied. "We will arrive in 17 cycles." Thalvin leaned back and watched the stars blur past. The Oracle's warning echoed in his mind, but he pushed it away. Old beings always feared change. They always counseled caution. That was why they sat in dark chambers instead of conquering the galaxy. The humans would learn what every other species had learned. Resistance was pointless. Surrender was the only option. During the journey, Thalvin reviewed the intelligence reports on Earth. The planet was divided into nearly 200 separate nations. They spoke different languages. They followed different beliefs. They had fought wars among themselves for their entire recorded history. Even now, in their primitive space age, they argued over resources and territory. Perfect, Thalvin thought. Divided prey is easy prey. He watched videos of their military parades, soldiers marching in formation, their chemical projectile weapons on their shoulders, primitive aircraft that moved slower than sound, metal ships that floated on water instead of flying through space. One report made him laugh. The humans had recently celebrated because they had managed to land a small robot on their neighboring planet. It had taken them months to get there. His fleet would cross the same distance in hours. "They are children," he said to his second officer, "playing with toys." But that night, alone in his chambers, Thalvin found himself thinking about the Oracle's vision. The rage in the human's eyes, the determination, the refusal to surrender even when surrounded, impossible. He whispered to himself, "They are soft. They will break." 17 cycles later, the Vreth fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. The blue planet hung in the darkness exactly as the Oracle had shown him. "Begin scanning," Thalvin ordered. "I want to know everything about their defenses." The reports came back quickly. The humans had a few stations orbiting their planet. Some satellites, a small presence on their moon and one of their neighboring planets. Nothing that could threaten even a single Vreth ship. "Open a communication channel," Thalvin commanded. "Let us introduce ourselves." The message was simple and direct. The humans would surrender their planet for mining operations. They would relocate to designated areas. They would provide labor. In return, their lives would be spared. Thalvin gave them one Earth day to respond. The response came in 18 hours. A human face appeared on his screen, a female with dark hair and eyes that showed no fear. She spoke in their primitive language, which his computer instantly translated. "I am Ambassador Jiwoo of the United Nations of Earth," she said. "We receive your message. We ask for peaceful negotiations. Please let us talk. We can find a solution that benefits both our peoples." Thalvin studied her face. She was trying to be calm, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. "Good. They were already afraid." "There is nothing to negotiate," he replied. "You have 12 hours to begin evacuation of the designated zones. If you refuse, we will demonstrate the consequences." Jiwoo's face remained steady. "We have families in those zones, children, we need more time. Please show mercy." "Mercy?" Thalvin felt genuine confusion. "You misunderstand. This is mercy. We could simply take what we want and eliminate you entirely. Instead, we offer you survival. Accept it." The transmission ended. Thalvin waited. 12 hours passed. The designated zones were not evacuated. Instead, the primitive human military began mobilizing. Their ships moved toward his fleet. Their orbital stations powered up weapons that could not possibly penetrate Vreth shields. "They choose resistance," Thalvin said, almost disappointed. "Very well. Target the nearest orbital station. Fire a warning shot." The beam lanced out from the Eternal Victory, crossing the space between them in an instant. The human station's shields flickered and died. The structure began to break apart, atmosphere venting into space in frozen clouds. 15,000 life signs on that station, his tactical officer reported. Now 0. Thalvin felt nothing. They had been warned. They had chosen their fate. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of surrendering, instead of begging for mercy, the humans attacked. Their primitive ships opened fire with everything they had. Missiles that his shields stopped easily, projectile weapons that bounced off his hull, energy beams that barely scratched the paint. "Destroy them," Thalvin ordered. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 7 minutes. 23 human ships were reduced to debris. The rest retreated, burning hard back toward their planet. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we are receiving thousands of transmissions from the planet. They are evacuating their cities." "Good," Thalvin replied. "They are learning." But as he watched the screens, he saw something that gave him pause. The humans were not running in panic. They were organized, methodical. They moved their young and old first, then their resources. Then their soldiers took defensive positions. And on every transmission they intercepted, the humans were not crying or begging. They were angry. They were planning. They were preparing to fight. Begin landing operations, Thalvin ordered, pushing away the small voice of doubt in his mind. 12 strike forces. Secure the major population centers. Eliminate any resistance. As his troops descended toward the blue planet, Thalvin thought one last time about the Oracle's warning. Do not wake the two-legged storm. He looked at the planet below, at the primitive creatures scrambling to defend their home with their inadequate weapons and divided nations. There is no storm, he said firmly, only a gentle rain. The